Hello, boys and girls. Lord Hawkeye here again. Just recent posts have made me want to make this video. It's in hopes that maybe some people might see things through my eyes a little better. Yeah, right, but oh well. And you can brought to mind a little story, which I'll tell you while you can sit here and watch Sammy Bell catch your dinner. Now, just try to picture this. Suppose we've got a fellow, we'll call him Jack, and he's got a bit of a problem. There's a gang that's been causing all kinds of problems. They've been mugging people, maybe even killing, and Jack thinks they got it out for him for some reason. They vandalized his house, vandalized his car, beaten up his friends, and worst of all, he's been sent threatening letters. They say they're going to kill him, they're going to do some real horrible things to him, and Jack naturally is scared. So, what does he do about it? So what he does a little looking around, and he finds out the neighborhood where this gang lives. They all live in different places, but they're all on about the same plate. They're all about the same location. So, he goes out and buys some tanks of gas and some other equipment. He sets them up at specific points around the neighborhood, and once everything's all in place, he sets the whole thing off and incinerates the whole neighborhood. Burns the whole thing to the ground. Everyone dies. And when people come to him quite outraged and they say, why would you do such a thing? Do you have any idea there was women, there was children there? What on earth would possess you to do something like that? And all he replied saying, it was war, and war is hell. Now, tell me absolutely honestly, would you consider Jack to be A, justified, B, immoral, or C, out of his fucking mind? I'm pretty sure most of us would pick C. I mean, I can't think of anyone in their right mind who would ever consider this to be acceptable behavior. I mean, blowing up hundreds of people because you had suspicion that some of them had done something wrong? I mean, it wouldn't even be an acceptable reason to kill just them in that sort of fashion. It's the kind of thing we'd expect from the medieval times, not in civilization. And yet, these are the exact arguments that I've heard from people trying to defend the Hiroshima bombing. I mean, well, there you go. This is how I view this. I don't view the government as some special entity that works under different rules. I recognize that they're just a bunch of individuals just like any of us. So I completely fail to see why they should get these free passes that you keep doling out like candy. I mean, seriously, do you people honestly believe that the state is somehow beyond you, is somehow working under a different set of rules? I mean, maybe that made sense back when we used to believe in divine right, but I hope you didn't miss the memo that we stopped believing that centuries ago. And my favorite part is that they don't even address the arguments. They don't adjust what they're saying to counter what I'm saying. No, they just repeat the same thing over again. It's just the same three arguments repeated over and over. A, Japan were a bunch of evil assholes and blah blah blah, and I'm totally not a racist. B, that invading them would have been far worse, even though no one's saying we should have invaded them. I know I certainly didn't. And that it's war is hell. Like, just calling violence by a different name somehow changes everything. It's just insane. And my favorite part is the idiots trying to say, we did them a favor, we took the high road. Think about it, folks. Use your heads. I know it's difficult, but just try. Just for me. Just humor me. He wanted to scare them. He wanted to make a statement that we got nukes, so you better not mess with us. So he blew up not one, but 2 cities, even though blowing up one would easily have gotten that message across. So, if nothing else, he could have killed only half the people and got the same result. And you are going to sit there and try and tell me that this was some kind of an act of mercy? I mean, come on. This is ridiculous. Calling these people ignorant and stupid beyond description is doing a disservice to simpletons all over the world. I mean, I hate to be cruel, but that's just calling it the way I see it. I mean, this is what you're basically doing. You are trying to justify an act that you would never tolerate from anybody else, which is just a clear indication that you somehow worship the state as some kind of higher being than yourself. And you wonder why we call you the cult of the omnipotent state. Well, that's why. Because you don't use consistency, you don't use logic, you throw everything completely out the window as soon as government's involved. For what? I cannot possibly fathom. Yeah, state schools, yeah, I forgot. Anyways. Well, that's why I always tell people. Don't use arguments that you yourself would not accept, because then skeptics like me are just going to call you out for it, and you're going to end up looking like an idiot. So if you want to argue for the Hiroshima bombing, great. I welcome it. Maybe I might learn something. But don't sit there and say the Japanese were bad for murdering people, that's why we had to murder them, and try to argue that somehow that makes you the good guys. Because if you can't see how ridiculous that is, then you really need to learn how to think before you want to try debating, because propaganda's not going to work on me. I've heard it all before. And until next time, be aware and be wise.